Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin, utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk that can lead to a complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange market or using any of our software alert products, you should carefully and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, and risk tolerance. There is a possibility that you could potentially sustain significant loss. You should not invest any capital or trade that you cannot afford to lose. It is your responsibility to be aware of and understand all risks associated with foreign exchange trading and to seek professional advice from an independent certified financial advisor if you have any doubts. Auvoria Prime does not exercise trading authority over your trades. You and you alone exercise discretionary trading authority over every trade.
News bulletin board here. Tuesday, we have a couple of red folders today. 8:15 British US, 8:30 British US. Lots of red folders right there. And right now, if you look at the heat map, we'll see that you can see that the US is real strong, the British is real weak, and so we'd be trading to the strength of the US dollar, the weakness of the British pound. Strength of the Japanese yen, Australian dollar, all stronger compared to the New Zealand CAD and British. And if you look and see what we've got so far on the, here's a British US chart, and you can see it has a nice big drop right down here. This is all within the last 15 minutes, so there must have been some, this preparation of some of the news. But I said we're looking to trade to the strength of the dollar. It's a British-U.S. pair, so the U.S. is the second currency of the pair, which means that if the British were stronger, it'd be going up. If the U.S. is stronger, it's going down. So today the British is weak, which means it's going down. The U.S. dollar is strong, which means it's going down. So we're going to be trading to the short side of this thing. So we're going to be buying pullbacks to or actually selling pullbacks in order to take it more short. With this, you can see it's been in kind of a tight range up until some news announcement. I said there's still some more announcements coming out about 8:15 and 8:30. So this thing could very well find a bottom around here someplace and then turn around. I was looking to see if we could find a green zone at a higher time frame. And there's one right here. And if you look and see the distance right here is we've got about 20 pips. So if we were to get in, so anywhere, so we can be looking at you can pretty much be looking at this range right here for perhaps like a draw Fibonacci, even though the other target's way over to the left. You can see this would probably be the range that we would be looking at to draw the Fibonacci's on this one. And this is basically the zone that it's playing in. It's playing in this area to this area. And it's looking to coming down into, it's right now at the top of this higher time frame green zone, but this is the little wick right in here that it could probably come down and find some buyers. So we'll just draw this. So we have our range. We'll go ahead and draw the rectangle or the rectangles. Basically, you can see where this was all of last week's highs coming into, this was the May, this is all the way back in May. So we're going to be looking at this little area right here, the lower 25%. We'll draw that. And I'll look and see. And the thing is, you just kind of keep going till you find out where the zones are. And but you want to make sure that you go back far enough and you have enough range between these higher time frame. I have higher time frame zones and I have lower time frame where I draw the Fibonacci's. I'm setting up the higher time frame because that's showing me where it's going from that's where the upper level of a sideways range is and the lower level of a sideways range. And then we're marking the targets in between. And generally speaking, it goes from the upper part, comes into the middle, plays around a little bit, goes down to the bottom, comes back to the middle. You can see all this, it all keeps coming back into the middle, goes up, comes back to the middle, up, back into the middle, up, back into the middle. And eventually it will probably break to the bottom, its bottom third, which it is right now. And then it'll probably go back up to the middle. And this is why I draw these ranges. And you can pretty well be, there's a high degree of confidence that it's going to go back into it. That middle area is going to be like a magnet. That's where it finds its equilibrium. But once we find this, then we go to a lower time frame and try and catch these moves from the bottom to the top, or at least the bottom to the middle area. Maybe comes back to the bottom, go back to the middle area. And then here's where you want to kind of stay out of it or be very careful, because You don't know if it's going to break back to the middle, go back to the bottom, or if it's going to break up to the top and then come back. The safest thing to do would be just wait until it gets up to the extremes, find the reversal pattern, use this for a stop, and then use this for the target. I'll go back into and see right now we can see where we are with this. And so right now I'm just sort of preparing to see where this thing's going to go when the announcement happens, and see if we can maybe find a reversal pattern here. Right now it's already in the lower 25%. It could go much deeper. We don't know. But we're just going to have to play it by ear and see what we can find. I'm looking for the moving averages. Forgot to put my moving averages on again. Let me get back and draw that again. I hate when I do that. Peak to peak. Here's the upper zone. Here's the lower zone. And you could also see how it cycles through this 200 moving average. That's also, this is always a nice big bounce point. So right now I would expect you're going to get some sort of a bounce in this little area right here. See where our green zone, our lowest level green zone is, and that's going to be right in this area right in here. And we'll just make a note of that. So when we go to the other time frames, we'll still have that as a little marker. That's where you can see where it's really real bright black in here. That's going to be the target area. And go to my lower time frame. And now I'm just basically looking for a little bit of reversal or to see if it's going to drop down into this area. But this area right here, that's 20 pips. It's barely on. If you got an arrow on this, you're barely looking at enough room to catch the trade. Go to a 1 minute chart. You can see it's flattening out. And it's pretty much waiting for the announcement now, whatever that may be. I like to see this thing sort of it's probably going to come down a little bit lower. And we have this is where the green zone was down below. So there is some room to the downside. I would still be looking at taking this thing short with this being just a flat area while it's waiting for the announcement. And it could very well go short still. Maybe looking at this thing go around 8:15 is when the first announcement is, and there's no one to 8:30. So right around the 8 o'clock time frame, we'll probably be looking to see if this thing's going to start making a move. And that's that one. Lots of red ones here today. The yen was strong as well, and the Swiss franc was right. That's kind of weak as well. Let's take a look at this one. Any questions about how I drew that or how I'm drawing these? Basically, I'm starting with for those of you who are new here, and if you become overwhelmed, don't let it overwhelm you. You'll get the hang of it here. But right now I'm looking to see where green zones and red zones are. I haven't seen any red zones, so I'm going to go to a next higher time frame. I'm going to keep going to see if I can find a zone, which right now I'm all the way up to I'm not seeing any zones anywhere here. So it tells me this may be making some new highs. Nothing. I had to come all the way to a monthly chart just to find out where the last pivot high is, which is way up here. Now, if you look at the distance on that, that's like the Swiss yen, that's about 118 pips. Actually, it's probably more than that, it's almost 1,000 pips there. So that's not going to help us much as far as knowing where our target is. But there's this little wick right here. I'm just going to mark that since there's really nothing else and see where the price is. As it's right now, it's inside this little wick area right here. So I'd probably use this little pivot here to down here, or go to, well, we know that this is a high of a pivot, so we can come back to a lower time frame now and just use that for a reference. See where it is. It's all the way up there. So that could be a possible target. This is the last significant high. Here's the next last significant low. Let's see what the range is on this. This may work. That's 88 pips. We'll use this for our range. We know that the next area where it's going to, if it keeps on going higher, this is going to be a target area we're going to be looking for. And let's see what this range is here, from here to here. That's 52 pips. That's not too bad. We have a nice little green zone there. Let's just use this. This is a nice low range. Our fibs. Get my moving averages in there before I forget again. So right now, all the prices are above this 200 moving average. So I'm going to use that for a reference. If this thing breaks, it's going to be coming on down below. But right now, it has this little range right here. It's got the moving averages. And right now, it's coming into the lower 20% of this pivot low to this one up here. So if this breaks, actually, let me do it this way. I'm going to come all the way down here. I'm going to show you something. And you can see that right now, this little green zone is in between your 30, 50, and 61. So this is the extreme. It's coming down in the middle. Now, if it breaks, excuse me, if it breaks this zone right here, is heading on down below. So I'm going to use this as the main area right now where it's coming into, and it'll probably, I would not be surprised to see it come back up and start making new highs. But right now, it's following. It's still in an uptrend. It still has a green zone below it. So I'm going to be looking at this as being a very significant area where I'd be looking for maybe a turnaround bounce off of this. So here's my zone. So this is why, and so right now, this is a sort of like a rally-based rally coming back to retest this zone. As this comes back down the retest, we're going to be looking for maybe a turnaround area right in this area to keep on going. But right now, this is the this is the area where we're looking at if it's going to hold. We have this moving average. This moving average is coming down. So everything right now is showing going short, but it's coming right into an area where I would be looking for it to either start basing again. This is where the buyers and the sellers were pretty much at equilibrium. Buyers took over, sellers came back, checking it out again. So we're going to do the upper 25. Again, this session here is all these sessions that we do in the morning here is just pretty much to show you how, give you some tools to work with for determining the price action and using the technical analysis to make your trade decisions. Here's the lower 25. So that's our playground. This is where it's going sideways, but it's trending inside this range. Okay, I'm going to remove my fibs. And I'm going to draw it to the downside. So we have our zones, we have our target areas. Now I'm going to draw a Fibonacci from this area down and see where this thing comes around, turns around. So we're just going to take it from, here's where it came out of the upper zone. This was the next area. So it came down, broke out of the upper 25%, came back in, and then it has another strong move down. So right now this is trending. Here's a long move down, short retracement, long move down, short retracement, long move down. This is pretty much the fifth wave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the fifth wave. This is where I'm going to start looking for a turnaround. So what we're going to do is we're going to see where this thing comes out of the lower 25% of this move and look for the pullback, retrace, and I'm going to be looking for a little wedge on the bottom to see if it breaks to the upside. So I'm going to draw the fibs from here. We don't know where it's going to stop, but right now this is where it is. I'm going to just project it down a little bit further, right about into the green zone. Here's the other upper 25 of this down move. Here's the lower 25 projected. We don't know where it's going to be, but right now we don't know where this thing's going to stop. But we're just going to put it down here for right now. And actually, right now, if it stopped right here, this is where it would be. If it goes lower, which I suspect it might, and we'll just have to wait and see where it stops and where it turns around. But once it just finds a bottom, pulls back up out of this little area, comes back in, retests, and we're looking for the upper zone would be up in this area. So the price action that I'm looking for is going to be a move down, a pullback, a retest, not going lower than this one, and then another. This is a picture I'm looking for. We have to give it time to develop. And then it comes back up and retests this area up in here. And you also have the middle zones, which could probably go up in the middle zones, come back down before it goes up higher. So right now we're waiting for this thing to bottom out, have the buyers come in, sellers give another shot to take control, and then you have this little angle here where you're looking for a bounce, retest, and then another bounce. And then this would be the move we're going to be trying to catch. Right now, there's
quick question for you. Your gold lines. What time frame was that fib drawn?
I think this was on. I think I drew those on a 15-minute. No, I should probably. What was that? That was on a. Let me see if I can find out where it was. It was on a. Yeah, it was on a 15-minute. But and I took it all the way down from down here.
Didn't you just draw this one on a 15-minute? Like
oh, wait a minute. Let me see. Let me scoot down here. Let me go to 1 hour here. See where is that? That's 1 hour.
That'd be a higher. Did you do it like maybe on?
Well, this is the middle. So this is where the. This is the zone right here. So it must have been this one right down here where I drew this. Yeah, this is the bottom of it right here. So this was the bottom of this blue area. So let me go and see. Pretty much, you can say, let's just say it was off a 1 hour chart. Here's a green zone. I really didn't have an upper red zone to draw it with it, so I just used this for the last pivot low. Basically what I did with this particular one, and this is not what I usually do, but I didn't have much choice in it. As I look and see where we know that it's making, that the next high we determined was all the way up to the top, I believe, way up here.
There's a question because Daniela thought you drew them both on the 15, but I can clearly see that the gold lines are different.
Yeah, what I drew, well, what I did was I'm on the 15-minute chart, and I had the green zone. So in fact, we knew that this thing's just making new highs or coming up, and there's another high way up in the top there. So it's trending up higher. But I knew that this was from this low here to here. It was coming right back into the middle zone, which is where my orange lines are. So in order to find out if this is a area, if this was the high, it's coming back to retest this area, where was the low that it came in from? So that if these green bars break to the downside, how far is it going to go down before it's going to probably bounce again? So you have to find out where the last pivot low was, in this case, way down here. So here was the full range of the upper. This was the full range of the Fibonacci, was from all the way down here. For the higher time frame was right there. And then I drew my 3 lines here in the middle.
The confusion is that it's on the same time frame. That's the question was, I thought we had to draw the first fib on the higher time frame and then jump down to a lower time frame.
Well, that's generally the case. What I'm looking at is I'm looking for the range of where the pivots are. And I mean, let's just say we could draw it on a higher time rate, but well, let's just do it this way. We're on a 1 hour chart. Here's my green zone. I don't know where the red zone is, but here's a pivot high. So I went from this green, this pivot low, to this pivot high on the 1 hour chart. And I came down to a 15-minute chart to see where the next trending is. So in essence, you're right. Let's just say we use the 1 hour time frame for the pivot low. Here's the green zone. Here's our high. We don't have a red zone because the red zone's never showed up on it, even though monthly chart, there was no red zone. So this is probably going to develop a red zone on this pullback. Hopefully, we'll see one. But here's the last significant pivot low. This was back on the 14th. That was yesterday. Made a big move up. So this, just yesterday's range was 93 pips. So that was 100. So that's plenty to have for your range. You can even use 50, which is right here, which is a halfway point. So this was a rally-based rally. Now it's coming back into the zone to retest. Once it retests, it's either going to do one of two things. It's going to retest it and go up high and retest this and probably go higher. Or if the retest doesn't work, it's going to come back down to the lower 25 into the zone to retest this low. So right now, the price is in the middle, between this area right here, inside the middle zone. And now we're just looking to see if it's going to turn around, pull back, and head up and retest this, or is this zone not going to hold and come back down and retest this low? Hopefully that makes sense. Does that clarify things for us?
I'll find out.
Basically, again, when I draw the higher time frame fibs, I want to see the pivot high, the previous pivot low, where it has my extremes and my price somewhere in between, in the middle, somewhere in between. And that's where this satisfies that, from low to high, higher time frame. And now I'm going to put this thing under the microscope as it gets into these orange line areas with the lower time frame. Even to go down to a minute time frame, I still have my zones are still there. And then I'm looking for I'm looking for the reversal.
So just a quick recap, then it was drawn on like a 1 hour.
Yeah, I'll just say it's drawn on 1 hour. That's probably the easiest way to just say it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so right now it's this is the 3 zones from my higher time frame. It's still in let's just split these zones in half. Right now it's coming down into the bottom half, still showing weakness. Now I have a green zone here on the 5 minute. Now I finally have a red. Now this finally developed on the 1 minute, 5 minute chart. I have a red zone up here. And now I'm just waiting for this thing to give me a pivot low. So I can take this. Here's my low so far. So now I can take this and move it down. As it keeps going lower, I'll keep on moving this thing down and trying to find out where my exit point is for the 23.6 area. So right now we're looking for this movement right here. Somewhere up in here, probably retest the moving average. If it comes up and retests these 2 moving averages, and this green doesn't cross over the yellow, I can take it short and head on down to see if it's going to retest. But right now, there's still a lot of strength to the yen is still strong. Yen is the second currency of the pair. It's still showing weakness, or the Swiss is still showing weakness. The yen is still showing strength. Now we have a little green zone right here. Again, I'm looking for a bounce. I'm looking for so we have from the higher time frame now, we can be looking at this area. As long as this thing keeps on trending, I can use this pivot high. I can use this pivot low. And now I can be looking at the pullback. I'm still waiting for it to pull back out of the 23% area. Let me see. I'm going to get too many lines in here if I'm not careful. Here's my 23. And so now I'm going to be looking at the roughly a 38 to 1. Here's my retracement zone. If it finds a bottom, comes back into this little area, I can take it short. And as long as these moving averages are still pointing down, as long as my green doesn't cross the yellow, I can still take this thing short and still use this for the target. I'm looking for a pullback up into the zone somewhere. And then we're looking for the target. Where's my trend line? There it is. And then we can look for another retest of the, wherever the low is, we can look for the retest of the low. But keep in mind, we kind of want to be able to still have a wedge coming down, because as this comes up, forms another high, whatever low this comes into, and it takes off and retraces, I don't want this low to get broken. If this low gets broken, you have to restart the whole process all over again until it doesn't get broken, because we want to be having a low with a higher low, and that's where you're going to start seeing where it's going to start trending back to the upside. And then it would have a pullback, and then we would have another go to the upside. And that way, and also be looking at maybe this point or this area up in here. And so we're just trying to get our 5 to 7 pips with our higher lot sizes to be able to make our profit for the day. Right now, this thing's still coming down. We don't want to be taking it long with a strong move until we get that pullback. We want to get the pullback where it loses some of its downward energy, comes back in, retest, and then take it off again. By that point, you'll have a very tight stop, and you'll have a lot bigger target. Let's see. So that's about all I can say about that right now. We don't have a trade here yet, but we'll keep an eye on that one, just see how this one plays out and materializes. But it's already had its 5-wave pullback into the middle zone of the bigger time frame zone. So these are still our higher time frame middle zones. I'm basically just looking to see how deep is it going to go, and see when it's going to break out to back up to retest this area up in here. And the upper 25% of this whole move is going to be this area right in here. That's the area, when this thing turns around, this is going to be the area off of this move that we're going to be looking at it to retest, because you could very well get this little factor right here. We could get that up on the top as it pulls back to retest like this. And then it goes back. So right now, then we'd be getting a lower high, higher low, and it starts building its own bigger wedge inside this area. Right now, there's still room to the upside to get this for a target. This would probably be the target that I'd be looking at once this thing turns around. Okay.
We have a pound yen alert.
Pound yen.
Not yet.
Oh, there you go. There's a arrow. Here's how much room do we have to the downside here? 22 pips, 15. Let's draw this one out real quick. Did I draw this pound yen before? No, I didn't. Okay, I'm just going to draw this real quick. Get my moving averages in the right spot before I forget again. There's my moving average. Everything's in the right direction. We want to be taking it short. We have a little bit of a, here's where this thing closed out. It's got a little bit of a pullback going on right now, but did find some buyers coming in right in this area. Well, this is our higher time frame Fibonacci from here to here. Here's my 25, lower 25. Take it out to the end of the day. And you see it came right down, wigged right into this lower 25%. Still has a green zone right down here, so it could still have, we want to see it, the yen is still strong, the British pound is still weak. We still want to be trading this to the short side. So as we mark our middle zones, there's the first one, second one, third one. Upper level. Identify our sideways motion. Try and find the trend. Here's a nice little move down. So with this one, I'm going to be using, here's a strong move down, pullback. Had a little bit of a wedge going on right in here. So this is an area where I'd be looking for a retracement right in this little area. I'm just going to make a note of that. This is our drop, base, drop, and this would be the retest area, which would be basically the upper between the 50 and the 38 line here. This would be the area that I would expect this thing to bounce and pull back to. But I'm going to use this move down for my next Fibonacci to draw that. So if I can just do that here. Go to a 5-minute chart. Here's the strong move down. Here's the bounce coming back up, bouncing. All the moving averages are still pointing down. So we still want to be looking for a pullback to take it short, looking at this being a target. So here's my move down, looking for it. This is my middle 3 zones right in there. And I want to see it get into the 23. I want to see at least pull back at least to the 23% line. Oftentimes I'll do this one here that from the actually what I'll do is I'll do this. The whole zone here, and I'll take it the middle one down to about halfway just to see if it comes back into this range. Right now, this yellow line is the key. If the price comes up, can close above the yellow line, and the green one can come up and then curl before it crosses, that would be my entry to go in short. Go to my 1-minute chart and see how the price looks on this. Here's our move. We have our fib line. Here's our bottom. It's coming up. Here's our 20% pullback. Coming up into the zone. On the 1-minute chart, I've got the crossover. The green crosses over the yellow. On the 1 minute, I do not want to take a short until this green comes back around the other side. So right now, this is just a nice little pullback. And now the question is, I have a green zone here. Now, can it pull back to where from the green zone to where it pulls back? I can get in with like a 15 pip target. If it comes up into this area right here, then I would probably maybe try and take a sell stop from here down to the target. That would give me 10 pips. That'd be enough for my target. Because that way, if this thing comes up and when it starts to retrace back to retest this low, I'll be in the trade. If it keeps on going, I don't get in the trade yet. So if this thing comes up, wicks up here, then I'm going to put a sell stop in right around this area. It is breaking this little wick here. So right now it's making a little trend line. I can have a little trend line from the low. Here's a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. This would be like an A, B, C wave to the retest here. We have a little trend line. This could be a possible trade here. It's testing back up right now. If it comes back down and retests I can get I could maybe do a sell stop right in this area right in here. That would still give me my 7 pips to the target. Now, if this is just a pullback, it'll retest this area. Again, the area I'm going to be looking to a retest is going to be having a pullback to somewhere around this level right in here, in this area. But right now, I've got the green crossing the yellow on the 1 minute chart. It still has upward pressure to the upside. We're going to see how far it comes up in wicks. If it can come up into this level, wick up, not close below, then I feel pretty comfortable maybe taking a sell stop if it comes back down to retest the trend line. And all I'll do is I'll right click, trade, sell stop. There's my sell stop. I'll try and adjust this below. I'm going to keep it out of harm's way. I don't want it to enter my trade yet. Right now, I'm looking for it to come back up, give me a little pivot high, see where it comes up to the 60. It came up to 61. I can use this for a entry. That way, if it comes back down, retest this and keeps on going. If it retests it and bounce, I'll have a tight stop, and probably my stop would be probably up and around this area. But this way, if it keeps on going up, I can maybe keep on raising my entry. But I would like to see it come down, break through this trend line, and it might just keep on going, or might come back, break through the trend line, come back up, retest the wedge, and then come back down again. But right now, with our heat map, we're talking about the British yen, and I'm going to look and see. You'll see that the British is still weak, the yen is still strong. Yen is strong, British is weak. Yen is strong, British is weak. I have no reason to think this thing's going to go to the upside. Here's our little pivot high. This moving average held so far. The 61 or 61.8 level held. And now we're going to see if it's going to come back down to break through this one to come on down lower. And the target on this could be all the way down on the other side. And right now I'm going to go and set my stop and target. So I'm going to be looking for a stop is going to be 79, 50, 154.79. That'll be the stop, and then the target would be 154.57. We'll call it. We'll do 10 pips, so 54.54. So my stop would be up here. My target's going to be down here into the green zone. If it comes back in the top of the green zone and starts bouncing, I'll probably just pull the trade and take my profit. And if it keeps on going up, I won't get into the trade. And depending on how high it goes, I may just end up keep on moving this up if I still feel that it has the potential to come back down into retesting this area. If it clears this trend line, it could probably come back up and bounce off of this one right here. This would be, and then this would be the signal that it's maybe ready to go on up even higher. This would be the turnaround area. So you have a little bit of a channel here. If I draw these pivot highs, you'll see there's a little bit of a channel on this pullback. Strong move down. Here's a little flag pattern, and then if it comes back down, it's liable to come down a lot harder. And this whole zone could get broken out of the bottom if it's strong enough. And we'll wait and see. Keep an eye on that. We have a trade set. We'll see if it gets filled, and we'll move on to the next one. Anybody else want to see anything particular? How's our German 30 doing this morning? German 30 is making new highs. It's in a zone right now. I drew this one out yesterday, and the zones are still valid. This was still the upper 25. Here's my middle zones. It still keeps on trying to make some new highs here. But right now it's kind of caught in this upper 25% of this higher time frame that I had. Here is the bottom. Came back up, retested. So it's got some upward pressure still. Again, I'd be more apt looking at this thing to go long on the pullbacks. All the moving averages are in the right direction and still making highs. On the lower time frame, you're going to get these little zones, but once they get broken, there's nothing else because it's all making new all-time highs. So just wait for the pullback into these areas and then maybe try and take another trade on it. Here's our trend line. Actually, I probably can almost even take it all the way to this one here. There's the anchor. Here's a pivot. First little breach. There's a pivot. Here's the retest. This trend line is valid. Wait for it to pull back into this zone, maybe bounce off this trend line, and then for it to go up higher still. We maybe will catch a little move coming to the downside. If we can get this thing to come out of this upper zone, then we can go with this and be looking for the target being somewhere down in this area. 1 minute chart.
I do have a question on the previous, on the GJ.
Okay.
Now.
All right.
They're asking if you could go over how you placed your sell stop.
Oh, how do you place the sell stop? I'll just do it on this one. If I just left click on my mouse, you get this little trading window comes up. Let me just say this. Wherever you have your cursor, when you left click, like if I left click right at the bottom of this green zone, I left click and my trade window comes up. I go trade, and I want to do a sell stop. You'll see that it was right where I left clicked it. And all it just comes up in there, and then you'd have to go and make your modification for and modify your stop and your target. Hopefully that answers the question. I'm going to take this off because I don't really want to trade there. Modify or delete. I'll delete this one. So again, you just put your cursor where you want to enter the trade. Left click, go up to trading, go to a buy limit or sell stop, whichever you're looking at doing. If you wanted to wait for it to come back down to go long, you'll do a buy limit. If you want to wait for it to come to an area and then keep on going further short, then you do a sell stop. And let's see here. I'm going to keep an eye on that. So far, we're not in anything yet. This thing's still pulling back. This thing's starting to just keeps, right now it's in this little channel going up higher and higher. We'll see where it turns around. Once it breaks through out of this channel, I should be getting into the trade. And so I've got just a little bit underneath this. This is basically that. Here's our 76, which is basically once this thing pulls out, it pulled out of the 20% of this down move. It pulled out of it. It's in that, right now it's in the middle zone. Here's our whole middle zone right in here. On the down move, it's coming into that zone. So we'll see how deep the pullback is. And if it doesn't give us a chance to go short, then we're just going to have to be looking at maybe another reversal for this move coming back down to retest. But right now, this is still the stronger. The yen is still the stronger. And so we're still looking at this thing just as a pullback to go short again. The further it pulls back, the more likely we're to get our target down here. So right now, from this move on up, it's retraced basically 38% of this move is retraced 38%. Let me just redraw this so it makes it maybe a little bit clearer for everybody. So we're going to go from this point down to the low. You can see that from this move, it's retraced 38%. It's heading on up to the 50% retracement of this down move. And so we're looking for this little to wick around, turn around. Wait for it to give up its steam and then come on down to retest down here. This is a nice little pullback. We'll see how far it goes. We have this little drop at base right here, dropped again. So this, it could very well come up and retest this little area. This would be the next little area I'd be looking at for it, and it's right here at the 200 moving average. I only changed the colors, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's a drop, base, drop, base, drop some more. Now it's coming back up to retest. This thing could very well keep on going up to retest out of this area. This is the origin of the strong move. Now, as this thing goes up, we're still going to be looking for it to break out of the bottom of this wedge. And so right now, what I'm looking for is if it breaks through the bottom. My entry's still down here, but if it comes back, finds a high, comes down, breaks through the wedge, the bottom of the wedge, comes up and retests it, and then fall back down again to our target. There's a little pivot high. Came up to the 50%, wicked up, couldn't hold it. Let's see what it looks like on the 5-minute chart. I like to see the close. If it's going to keep on going, I like to see the close on the 5-minute. The 1 minute, sometimes it gives it to you. Sometimes it's just a little bit premature. But I like this little candle right here. It came up to the 50% line, wicked up, came back down, closed, couldn't hold it. Now starting to pull back, going to come back down. It's going to retest this bottom trend line. And we're going to see if it breaks, if it can break this trend line. Here's our moving average. That's a nice little area where it may decide to pivot. Retest, close. If it comes back down, closes below the 38. If it can get a close below, come back and retest the 38. Then we'd be looking at coming down here for our target. Here's our entry right now below this little area. We may be able to move our entry up a little bit higher as this thing goes. This was a nice little pullback on this. And the yen is still stronger. The British pound is still weak to the yen. I'm looking for the green to cross back over the yellow. That would signify that the up move was done. So here it came up, came back down, kind of came close, but couldn't cross, so it kept on going up. Now we're going to look to see if this green moving average, which is the 5-period moving average, if we can get the candle to close below the yellow and get the green to close below the yellow, that might be our point to be able to, right now it's looking to bounce off of this area right now. We'll see if this trend line holds. And let's see what time it's about. It's almost time for the, remember we said there was British news at 8:30. We're coming up on the 8:30 time. It's 8:15 to 8:30 is where we came up with the time. This is the pullback prior to that 8:15 announcement. Right now, we did not get a close below this trend line. We've got this little pivot area right in here. It's going to have to get through this. That could be a trap. It's coming in. Right now we have this one. See what this 1 minute candle, we're on a 1 minute chart. We'll see if this 1 minute candle can close, say below this. We're getting the crossover. It hasn't crossed yet. We did have a nice little red candle coming down. Let's see if it comes back up and retest the trend line. Now, if this thing's going to fall and break, we could probably, if it falls and breaks, this little area probably won't hold much. And we can actually probably move our entry up a little bit. We'll see if it comes back into the trend, up into the wedge. Here's a retest. The next red candle, I can take it short. Unless it goes back up into this little wedge area. Right now, this trend line is holding. Now we'll see how high this one goes. If it comes up, I don't want to see this candle cross over here. If it is, I'll pull this straight because that means it's changing directions and starting to trend to the upside. You can see where we had our entry to come in here, but never came in, tagged it. And so we're not getting, we didn't try to target shoot it up here and say, okay, if it comes up here, I'm going to take it short, because now you'd be in this drawdown. Right now, I'm still out of harm's way. I'm going to see if this thing can make a lower high. That would help to confirm that this little area right here, this 50% retracement, is holding. And if it doesn't give us a chance to get in the trade, no, we just look for the next one. I think there's a really good chance it's going to come up. If this thing breaks, it could very well be going on up to this area. I don't know, that's enough. That's only 7 pips, so not tradable. But if it comes up there and turns around, that would be tradable, because now we'd have a high, a retest of the high, which could be over here. So we have another trend line. Let's see if this trend will hold. And then we could maybe take a bounce off of that to retest the low again. Right now, it broke this. These orange lines are the higher time frame, and right now it's in this bottom half right now. But it did break out the bottom, this bottom part. It did break out and retested the 25%. Now it's coming up, and it could very well eventually move to retest the upper 25. This could have been the low. This would be a possibility like a swing trade type of thing. It gets down the lower part, but your swing trade, your stop would have to be all the way down here at the bottom. If you did a swing trade off of this, you'd have to have at least a 20 to, this is probably where the 40 pip stop would probably come into play. Not huge, but it's 4 times more than what we try to use. Right now, we just have to wait and see how this thing plays out. And so you're waiting for a picture, you're waiting for it to fit, you want to draw what you want to see, and if it trades that, then that's a good thing. If not, then you just redraw what you want to see in the other direction. Right now, it's retesting this little pivot high right here. Here's our wedge. Strong move down. Here's our trend line, our old trend line still. It's still sitting there. Big rejection. And it's 8:30. This is where the announcement's coming in. Yen is still strong on all 4 time frames. You're seeing the action of where those red fuller announcements were. Right now, it's right in this. It's going sideways inside this little range with the trend line coming up. If we get the break, retest. This little level here is still holding.
Yeah, it does, Danielle. It looks like an M forming there.
Yeah, there is a little bit of an M forming. That's correct. Or is it a W?
She's asking, does it have to be slanted?
It will be slanted if they will be somewhat slanted, generally speaking.
even if
But
it's
right now we have the strong move down. Here's the peak. It could come back. If this is an M, it could come down, retest this to form the W. But right now we just don't really know which way it's going to go. It's right now it's in the zone of confusion. If it's a W, I'd like to see it come down a little bit, a lot lower for the W. Right now it's retesting these. Here's your left shore of the M. Here's the middle of the M. Here's the right shoulder. It's basically it's retesting this right now. If this thing breaks up higher, the M is no longer valid, and it's going to be looking for another shoulder. Right now, it seems to be holding.
Now, there was an excellent question in the Q&A earlier about how long should you demo a new strategy? And I had answered him that at least 100 trades in a new strategy on demo, and you need to be at least 80%, preferably higher win rates, and your overall, regardless of the win rates, you need to be profitable. So you set your goal, and you've got to be profitable, because as Al always says, that you can win 80% of your trades, but because of your position size and your take profits and whatnot, you could still come out to the negative at the end of it all. So you not only should your trades win 80% of the time plus, but you need to be profitable at the end of your demo trial.
One thing that's very, you said it very well there, Eva. And the thing that you have to really keep in mind is that as I've seen, and I've done this myself over the past, where I have 90% win rate, still lost money because you're paying spreads, you're paying swap fees and everything else. The other thing is that you can have 10 trades and 9 of them have your 2 pips profitable, so they count as a profitable trade. But all it takes is 1 10-pip loss, and you just blew up all your profit.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you have, I mean, you'll see that a lot of times my ratio is 15 pip stop to a 10 pip target. But keep in mind that when I have that, I rarely ever get a full 15 pip stop out. And most of the time, if I'm winning 80% of my trades with a 10 pip profit and a 15 pip stop loss, I can still lose a couple trades and still be profitable. But you're not going to be profitable if you have a win rate of with average win rate of 2 pips, and your spread's 2 pips. You're barely breaking even. And then I just lost my train of thought. You have to be able to. You have to have small losses to offset your gains.
Yeah.
And that's really the key here.
Yeah, and it becomes mechanical, that your analysis and your setting trades has to become mechanical for you. And the whole thing too, I mentioned to Mohsen, is that the longer you demo a certain pair, for example, then you will see what the nuances are of that particular pair, because they all move, they look the same, but they all have their own little quirks. So, I mean, me personally, I like to pick maybe half a dozen things that I trade and focus on them totally and learn them inside and out and how they move. So the longer you're on demo, the more you will be able to tweak your strategy to fit each pair that you're trading.
What's going to be interesting about this little trade right here, right now, is that we had this little basing area right here. You see, this is just a straight candle drop. I mean, like in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, it just dropped 27 pips. So right now it's kind of coming up to retest this, which I have this projected trend line. Here's my anchor. I'm looking to see where the hit's going to be. And right now I'm projecting the hit's going to be pretty much right around in this area right in here. And if I move my Fibonacci down to the top of this move, now I'm in the upper 25% of this area. I should get my second bounce off of this trend line projected. We'll see where it does. we have our bottom trend line here. So now we're looking at this thing to come down, retest the trend line. This bottom trend line is still holding. We maybe tweak a little bit. So now if it comes back down, retest the trend line, breaks out of our 20% area, comes back up, retests this line. Then we could still be moving our trade up to, then this could be our target, because from here to down here, we have 18 pips. I'm looking for 15 pips to a target range before I take the trade. My stop would just be up here. If this trend line holds, the stop can be above the trend line. So I can have a 6 pip, 5 pip stop, 15 pip target. I retested this moving average. Now, I'm still looking for I'm still on a 1 minute chart. I'm still looking for the crossover for a pullback. But if I could take it here to look at this being a target, I could probably still get my 7 pips out here if I got in here. I could probably take this thing short right here, use this for my stop, and my target could be this trend line, and it could still get me down to a lower, still be able to get my target range if it goes even further down. I would like to see a little bit of a pullback on this one still. It bounced. It's coming out of the 25. So right now, if it comes out of our 20% zone, comes back up and retests this trend line, I could probably take the straight short. And then I can move my entry area on up to this area. We'll see if this moving average is going to hold. The British pound is now starting to get stronger. If I look at our heat map, you'll see right now the British pound is stronger. The yen is still strong on the 15-minute, but it's starting to catch up over here. Still, yen is still overall stronger on the higher time frames. Again, you want everything in your favor. Right now, here's our pivot high. Here's our anchor. Here's our first hit. Here's our anchor. Here's our first hit. Here's our. Oh, let's see. Where's the first hit? I'll move this back up a little bit. Here was the first hit. Came back up. Retested it. So this trend line is valid. If this trend line gets broken, we're looking at going more to the downside. If this area gets broken, we're looking to go to the upside. Again, we're just trying to get ourselves in position to get our 7 pips out of this thing. It's coming out of the 25. Get some of these off of here. Now it's good enough to retest this upper trend line. The yellow did not cross, the green did not cross the yellow. This actually has some upward pressure here. But we have to figure out a place where we're going to get into where we get enough room for our targets. So far, this little zone right here is held. If this thing breaks, it's probably coming on up to this next quadrant up here. This next orange line would be the next target. Right now, there's a little bit of an area of indecision between who's going to win out, the yen or the British pound. And actually, you can see where we had on this one, we had the bounce arrow go. We didn't know where it was going to go to at the time, but now it's probably going to come up and maybe retest. It could very well retest this whole region up in here. So unless things line up, I mean, sometimes they look like they're going to line up and they don't, and they just don't materialize. But it's better to wait for it to do what you want it to do rather than to having to be constantly trying to guess which way it's going to go. And usually the 200 moving average is usually a target area. You'll probably get a bounce. If we look at our higher time frame, let's look at our 15-minute chart, and you can see that these are still it's still trending into this downside. Moving averages are still in the right direction to go short. Now, if this little zone breaks, I'm going to reverse my Fibonacci's and look for a pullback to keep on going up to this upper. Right now, for this zone right here to here, we still have 15 pips to the upside. So if we get a close above this orange line with a pullback, then I'll be looking at this for the target. In which case, I'll reverse my Fibonacci's and look for the other side of this thing. And I'm going to pull this trade. There's a US sell. We've got lots of things on the chart here. Still kind of like this trade. I'm looking to possibly reverse my thinking on this one and try and catch the pullback to go to the upside. As if it can cross over this green zone with a close, if it can break this little zone, the next pullback, I'll try and get into this thing to the long side, looking at this thing being this to the next target. From here to here. Looking for a pullback to the trend line, which is right where my shaded area is.
Question for you, Al. Mark is
Okay.
asking, does it matter that the pound yen ADR is 95.79? Is 95.79?
Pound yen ADR, pound yen. Yeah, it probably does matter, actually. It's pretty much gone its full range of the daily true range. It's gone just about there. So yeah, I would. That's probably one reason why we're having a hard time getting into this trade, because it's already reached its daily range. It had a really big move. I mean, it did almost the whole range in just a few minutes. It's 35 pips. Did 1/3 of the range in just in about a 5-minute period of time. It's definitely just, this is where you can really get yourself into trouble if you're, because you see it's now starting to go sideways right up in this area right here. And this range right now, we're looking at an 8-pip range over the last, I'll see, from here to here. For the last 15 minutes, it hasn't changed more than 8 pips. This is going sideways inside this little wedge area. So right now, when it breaks out of this, as it gets closer and closer to the apex of where this trend line, lower trend line and the upper trend line meet, as it gets closer and closer in here, when it breaks, it's going to break probably significantly. But right now, it's basically basing. It's going sideways inside a very narrow range. This was trending. Here's a high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Little basing in this area. These two highs were the same. Pulled back, took control again. Buyers took control again. Right now, it's came right down into the middle, three levels from the high, from this upper Fibonacci, as I drew from here to here. Came back down to the middle zone, retesting. It's the same place where the trend line is. But with only an 8-pip range over the last 15 minutes, you have to be careful that you want to get in when you can, but you want to make sure that you don't want to get in here, have it go up, you barely get your spread taken out, and then you're getting back and forth. You can't even get profitable in either direction because your spread's too much in the way. So here's the bounce, but where you're going to bounce to? You're going to bounce right up here to a 4-pip range. Came up here, it bounced. But where it bounced into a 7-pip range. You can't even get your spread out of that and make 5 pips. So right now, this thing doesn't really, it's trying to decide which way it's going to break. There's a battle going between the buyers and sellers on this one right now. So this one might be time to start looking for another trade here. Let's just see what this Aussie Swiss looks like. Here's a bounce, arrow, go. How much room do we have to the upside here? 13 pips. Let's check the moving averages on this one. We may be able to get a trade on this one here.
Question for you,
Moving
Al.
averages are good. Yes.
Mark's asking, I think Nate always uses a 10-day ADR. Do you prefer the 5-day? He has no opinion. He's just curious.
I'm not sure what Nate does. If I know the original one was for the when he's looking at the zones. I just know he was using a 20-pip target, 40-pip stop. So he was using double the stop for the target area to keep out of harm.
The
Oh, the ATR. Oh,
Yeah,
I have no idea.
the 5-day over the 10-day.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on that. I really don't use the ATRs very often. I say whatever Nate says is probably what he's been working with, and he probably has the history and the data to support it. Yeah, sorry, I really can't answer that question.
So Daniela's saying that her 10 days are the same as your 5 days on the ADR. Yes.
You know, that was in the settings on this, I believe, wasn't it? I'm not sure I ever changed that. To come to think of it, now you mentioned it.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, he does. You're right. He does use the 10 days. I know he does. I know he does change that to 10 days. I thought he changed that default. That'll help. That should help a little bit. Let's see. Do we Aussie Swiss? Let's see where the Aussie Swiss is on this. Aussie Swiss is weak. Aussie strong. Swiss is weak. Aussie's got a 4-point spread there. I'm going to trade to the strength of the Aussie. And a strong move up, pull back. I don't like having this 200 moving average right there. That's a little bit in the way. Everything else is moving right except for that. So right now it's still actually in the downtrend with the moving average still pointing down. Let's take a look at it on a higher time frame. We have a red zone right here. Looking for the first hit. See if this zone gets rejected. Came up, hit that point, pull back. Right now it's retesting this. If this zone breaks, we have the 3 levels up here. This would be contra trend. We only have 1 green. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red with a bigger zone right here. It does have more push to the downside. Here's our lower trend line. Right now, all the moving averages are a little bit out of whack. We have the 200 up here. We have the green cross and the yellow coming down, but now we have this arrow moving average trend, which has been following that trend to the upside. We pretty much need to get a close below and get everything else moving. I want to see everything moving in the right direction, like we did up here where we have the 200, we have the 62, the arrow, the 13, the 5. This is what we're looking. This is the consolidation. Everything's moving in the right direction to the downside. Right now we're getting the consolidation, but we don't know if it's going to consolidate and move to the upside. But right now all the moving averages are not in the right order, and all you're doing is taking the guess of which way it's going to go, and you're it's just not conclusive enough. So I'm going to pass on this one. Let's see what our German 30 is doing here. Let me just redraw this, see where we're at. Let's get on a 15-minute chart. This looks really busy right now, so let me redo this. There's our German 30. 15-minute chart. Red zone, green zone range right now. I need at least $10 move. That's $41. That's a nice little range in there. It's making new highs. Here's the all-time high right here. Looks like a new high yesterday. It looks like. I say we're looking to be buying pullbacks. All the moving averages are almost in the right direction. Here's our 200. Here's our 62. Here's the arrow. Here's our 13. Here's our 5. It's doing a little consolidation right in this area. We have a pivot low, pivot high, or higher low. Here's our bottom trend line. Here's our high. Here's our upper trend line. That's the range it's trading in right now. And if we look at bounce to there, to here, still have $40 moves. So that's still a pretty decent move on this. We have to wait for everything to get working in the right direction like it did over here. Just not taking trades unless everything's in the right order. We even had, so you can see where like this arrow moving average on the upside, it was following it. It was bouncing off it. Well, now it broke. It broke right into this trend line. Now, if it comes up and breaks again, we should start getting things moving in the right order. This one's still valid. It could come down. If it did bounce breaks to here, this would be the target. We have a green zone right in here, kind of in the way. Yeah, let's go to a 5-minute chart on this one, see if there's anything, we have an arrow or anything like that. Here's a bounce arrow go, but it goes right into these green zones. So nothing there. Well, let's see. Yeah, let's take a look at this. Bounce arrow. Only 6 pips to the zone.
2-minute warning out.
Okay. Had a lot of setups today, but nothing that closed out for us.
Yeah.
Nothing that confirmed.
I guess, before the U.S. market opens too, you tend to run into this more. I would have to think.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the S&P real quick, see what that's doing today. The S&P 15. Ooh. All right, let's redraw this one. But well, some of you guys are S&P traders.
Yuppers.
Not for the faint of heart.
No.
A lot of times the better moves are before the market opens. Here's a nice little move up. This was from yesterday's range. It made a new high yesterday. Actually, overnight is where it made the new high last night. So here's my Fibonacci's from here. Here's my low. Here's my high. Here's the upper 25. I'll just take it from day to, I got to change my color here. So I don't like changing colors. Let's see how this works. That'll be all right for right now. There's the lower one. There's my orange targets. Remember, everything kind of goes back to the middle zone. When it gets to the middle zone, it makes the decision. Does it want to go lower? Does it want to break up back to where it came from? And we don't always know it. That's why we use our system to be disciplined, to not try to second guess it.
That seems to.
Here's the upper 25%. Pull back out of it. Here's a little trend line from here. Here's the first rejection. Here's our trend. And where it goes, right now there's no direction on it. Let's go to 1-minute chart. Moving averages are in the right direction to go short. So we'd be looking for pullbacks as it's coming into that lower, into those orange lines. Here's where it pulled out of the upper 25. Here's the first pullback. We have another little trend. I don't know if you can see this or not. I'm having a hard time seeing it.
I can see it.
Dollar is relatively strong, which means this thing should be going to the short side. This is the first of the orange lines. This would be, so if it can break, it broke out of the 20, coming back up, retested it. And now we're looking to see if it can break through here for this to be the target.
Well, we're at 9:03.
Oh gosh, we got to go. I'm not sure. I'm assuming Jackie's doing her session today, so I'm going to call this today and head on over to see Jackie, and we'll talk to everybody later. Sorry to get any good trades for you, but have a good day. Stay green, stay disciplined. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, have a great day. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Bye.